The grand chamber of the Galactic Concord was the largest meeting hall ever built. It floated in space, a massive rotating station where representatives from 4,000 different species came to discuss the future of the galaxy. Today, the chamber was full. Thousands of aliens sat in rising rows of seats that circled a central platform. Lights floated in the air, and translation devices hummed softly as they converted countless languages into one. Ambassador Keth Voren stood at the central platform. He was a Selvari, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes that never blinked. His voice was calm as he spoke to the assembly. "I propose that we lift the human exclusion mandate," he said. "It has been 200 years. The humans have served their quarantine. It is time to allow them back into galactic affairs." The chamber erupted with noise. Some delegates whispered to each other. Others laughed openly. A few older representatives remained silent, their faces unreadable. A young delegate stood up from his seat. His name was Torvex, and he came from the Kreth Empire. The Kreth were tall and strong, with thick scales covering their bodies and sharp teeth that showed when they smiled. Torvex was smiling now. "This is a joke," Torvex said loudly. His voice carried across the chamber. "Why are we even discussing this? The humans are nothing. They are soft. They are weak. They live on a planet that tries to kill them every day, and they still almost destroyed themselves before they reached space." Laughter spread through parts of the chamber. Torvex continued, enjoying the attention. "They could not even develop faster-than-light travel on their own. We had to give it to them, and what did they do with it? They started a war they could not win." He spread his arms wide. "The human exclusion mandate is not a punishment. It is a kindness. We are protecting them from themselves." More laughter. A delegate from the Villani species stood up. The Villani were beautiful creatures made of living crystal. Light passed through their bodies and created rainbows on the walls. "I agree with the Kreth delegate," the Villani said. Her voice was like music. "Humans are fragile. Their bones would shatter under proper gravity. Their skin tears so easily. They cannot even survive in vacuum for more than a minute. What could they possibly offer the Concord?" The insectoid Chirix clicked their mandibles in amusement. "Their lifespans are pathetic," one of them said. "They live for less than 100 years. By the time they learn anything useful, they die. It is inefficient." Torvex nodded at his supporters. "You see? The ban exists because humans are not ready. They may never be ready. They are emotional creatures. They fight among themselves constantly. They hold grudges. They remember." The voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned to look at Keth Voren. The old Selvari had not moved from his spot on the central platform. His 4 eyes were fixed on Torvex. "What did you say?" Torvex asked. "I said they remember." Keth Voren's voice remained calm. "That is what humans do. They remember everything. Every kindness, every wrong. They write it down. They pass it to their children. They build monuments to make sure they never forget." Torvex laughed, but it sounded uncertain now. "And why should we care about their memories?" Keth Voren was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to face the Elder Council, the 12 ancient beings who ruled over the conquered. They sat in floating chairs high above the chamber, watching everything with tired eyes. "I request permission to show archive footage 7 Omega, Keth Voren said. The chamber went quiet. Several of the older delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The younger ones looked confused. "What is archive footage 7 Omega? Torvex demanded. No one answered him. The Elder Council members looked at each other. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication that made several of them close their eyes in what looked like pain. "That footage has been sealed for 200 years, one of the elders said. "It was sealed for good reason." "The young delegates mock what they do not understand," Keth Voren replied. "They laugh at the ban because they do not know why it exists. They think humans are weak because they have never seen humans pushed to their limits. He paused. I think it is time they learned. Torvex looked around the chamber, searching for support. This is ridiculous. What could possibly be in some old footage that would change anything? Humans are humans. They are soft, short-lived creatures who... Permission granted. The words came from the oldest member of the Elder Council. She was a being of pure energy, ancient beyond measure. Her voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. Let the footage play, she said. Let the young ones see what we saw. Let them understand why the ban exists. The lights in the chamber began to dim. A massive holographic screen flickered to life above the central platform. Torvex slowly sat down, his smile finally gone. Kethivoran stepped back from the platform. As he passed Torvex, he spoke quietly. Your ancestors served in the 4th Expeditionary Legion, the Selvari said. You should pay close attention to what comes next. Before Torvex could respond, the footage began to play. The date stamp showed it was from 200 years ago. The location was a jungle planet called Velos III, and the first image was of 12 human ambassadors stepping off a shuttle, their hands raised in peace. None of them knew they had less than an hour to live. The footage was old, but the quality was still clear enough to see every detail. The jungle of Velos III filled the screen, thick with massive trees and strange plants that moved on their own. The air looked wet and heavy. 12 human ambassadors walked down the ramp of their shuttle. They wore formal clothing, not armor. They carried no weapons. Behind them came their escort, 40 human soldiers in light combat gear. The soldiers looked alert, but relaxed. This was supposed to be a peaceful meeting. A Kreth general waited for them at the bottom of the ramp. He was huge, even by Kreth standards, with scales the color of dried blood and eyes that held no warmth. Behind him stood rows of Kreth warriors, thousands of them, their weapons gleaming in the jungle light. Welcome to Velos III, the general said. The translation was rough, but his tone was clear. He was not welcoming them. He was studying them. The lead human ambassador stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and a kind face. He extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Thank you for meeting with us, he said. We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples. The Kreth general looked at the extended hand. Then he looked at his warriors, and then he laughed. The sound was ugly. It spread through the Kreth ranks like a disease. Soon, thousands of them were laughing at the small group of humans who stood before them with their soft skin and their hopes for peace. Friendship, the general repeated. You come to our territory, you land on our planet, and you speak of friendship. He stepped closer to the ambassador. Let me show you what the Kreth Empire thinks of friendship with lesser species. What happened next was fast and brutal. The Kreth general drew his blade and cut down the lead ambassador before anyone could react. Then his warriors opened fire. In the grand chamber, several delegates looked away from the screen. The footage showed everything: the ambassadors falling, the human soldiers trying to form a defensive line, the overwhelming wave of Kreth warriors washing over them. It was over in minutes. The 12 ambassadors were dead. Most of the soldiers lay beside them, but not all of them. The footage shifted to a recording from a Kreth soldier's helmet camera. It showed 6 humans running into the jungle, 3 men and 2 women in torn military uniforms, plus 1 more who carried medical supplies. They were wounded. They were outgunned. They were running for their lives. The Kreth general appeared on screen again. He was smiling, his teeth stained with blood that was not his own. Send 3,000 warriors after them, he ordered. Take your time, enjoy the hunt, and make sure to record everything. He looked directly at the camera. I want to send the footage to Earth. I want them to see what happens when they send their people into Kreth space. The warriors cheered. 3,000 of them gathered their weapons and marched into the jungle, eager for easy prey. Some of them were already betting on who would make the first kill. None of them understood what they were walking into. The footage showed the Kreth warriors entering the jungle in organized formations. They were confident. They were well armed. They had thermal sensors and tracking equipment and centuries of hunting experience. They expected the humans to run. They expected them to hide. They expected them to eventually surrender or die of exhaustion. They were wrong about everything. The first Kreth warrior died 3 hours into the hunt. A sharpened stick came out of nowhere and went through his throat. By the time his companions turned around, there was no one there. Just jungle. Just shadows. Just silence. The second warrior died an hour later. He stepped on something hidden under the leaves. It was a trap, simple but effective. He screamed for a long time before he stopped. The third and fourth warriors died together. They were rear guards watching the back of the formation. Something pulled them into the darkness so quickly that no one heard a sound. By nightfall, the Kreth had lost 47 warriors. They had not seen a single human. The footage showed a Kreth commander speaking into his communication device. His voice was still confident, but there was something else in it now. Something that might have been the beginning of fear. "They are using primitive tactics," he reported. "Traps, ambushes. They are trying to slow us down. It will not work. We will find them by morning." Morning came. The Kreth had lost 112 more warriors during the night. The humans had attacked in shifts, never giving the Kreth time to rest. Every time the warriors closed their eyes, something happened. A scream in the darkness. A trap springing shut. A shadow moving where no shadow should be. The Kreth commander sent for reinforcements. Back in the grand chamber, Torvex watched with wide eyes. His scales had turned pale. He knew what was coming. His family had told him stories about the 4th Expeditionary Legion, about their glorious battle against a dangerous enemy. They had never told him it was like this. On the screen, the Kreth reinforcements arrived. 10,000 more warriors. The general himself came with them, no longer laughing. "Find them," he ordered. "Kill them. End this." 13,000 Kreth warriors spread through the jungle, hunting 6 wounded humans. The footage continued, and the dying continued with it. The footage that followed was broken into pieces. It came from hundreds of different helmet cameras, stitched together to tell a story that no one had wanted to remember. The quality changed from clip to clip, but the horror remained constant. Day 2 in the jungle. A Kreth patrol moved through the thick vegetation in tight formation. They were trained warriors, veterans of a dozen campaigns. They checked every shadow, watched every branch. They were doing everything right. It did not save them. The first sign of trouble was a sound, a soft whistle, almost like a bird. The patrol leader raised his fist to signal a stop. His warriors froze, weapons ready. Nothing happened. Seconds passed. The patrol leader began to relax. Then the ground exploded. The humans had dug a pit during the night and covered it with leaves. The bottom was filled with sharpened sticks. 3 Kreth warriors fell in. Their screams echoed through the jungle. While the patrol rushed to help their fallen comrades, 2 humans emerged from the mud behind them. They were covered head to toe in thick brown earth, invisible until they moved. They killed 4 more warriors with knives before anyone even knew they were there. Then they vanished back into the jungle like ghosts. In the grand chamber, the delegates watched in silence. Many of them had never seen humans before, not in person. They had only heard stories. Now they were seeing something else entirely. Day 3. The footage showed a Kreth camp at night. Warriors sat around portable lights, trying to stay awake. They had learned that sleeping was dangerous. The humans attacked at night, every night, without fail. A Kreth sergeant spoke to his soldiers, trying to keep their spirits up. "They are only 6, he said. 6 wounded creatures against 13,000 of us. They cannot keep this up forever. They must sleep eventually. They must make a mistake. He was wrong. The humans did sleep, but never all at once. They worked in shifts. When 2 slept, 4 watched. When those 2 woke, 2 others rested. They kept moving, kept hunting, kept killing. They did not stop. They did not slow down. They did not make mistakes. That night, the sergeant was found dead in his tent. His throat had been cut so cleanly that he never made a sound. The human who killed him had crawled through 200 meters of guarded camp to reach him, then crawled back out without being seen. Day 4. The Kreth general received a report that made his scales turn white. His forces had lost over 4,000 warriors, not to a human army, not to advanced weapons, to 6 survivors with knives and sticks and an endless supply of anger. He ordered a new strategy. Instead of hunting the humans, his warriors would form a massive circle and slowly close in, crushing everything in their path. Nothing would escape. The plan lasted 6 hours. The humans did not try to escape the circle. Instead, they attacked it from the inside. They hit one section, killed everyone they could find, then moved to another section before reinforcements arrived. They used the Kreth's own communication equipment against them, sending false orders that created confusion and chaos. By evening, the circle had collapsed. The Kreth warriors were scattered across the jungle, lost and terrified. The footage showed a young Kreth warrior hiding behind a tree. He was crying. His weapon shook in his hands. He kept whispering the same words over and over. "They do not stop, they do not stop, they do not stop." Something moved in the shadows behind him. The footage cut to black. Day 5. A human voice crackled through every Kreth communication device on the planet. It was a woman's voice, calm and cold. "You killed our people," she said, "our friends, our family. You laughed while you did it. You recorded it. You were going to send it to our home as a warning." The voice paused. In the background, there were sounds of fighting, screams, then silence. "We are not leaving," the voice continued. "We will keep fighting until we are dead. And before we die, we are going to make sure you never forget what happens when you hurt our people." The transmission ended. The Kreth general tried to rally his forces, but it was too late. His warriors were broken. Some of them refused to enter the jungle at all. Others threw down their weapons and ran. A few took their own lives rather than face another night. Day 6. The footage showed the bodies of the 6 humans. They had finally been killed, surrounded by hundreds of Kreth warriors in a final desperate attack. But even in death, they looked defiant. Their eyes were open. Their hands still held weapons. Around them lay the bodies of the Kreth who had died killing them. There were many, too many. The camera pulled back to show the jungle clearing. Kreth bodies were everywhere, arranged in patterns. The humans had taken time, even while fighting for their lives, to arrange their kills into symbols. Warning signs, messages. One symbol was repeated over and over. It was simple, 2 parallel lines with a horizontal line crossing them. The Kreth did not know what it meant, but they knew it was a promise. A counter appeared on the screen. Final casualty report. Kreth forces deployed, 13,000. Kreth forces killed, 10,600. Human survivors, 0. The footage ended. The grand chamber was completely silent. Torvek stared at the screen, his mouth hanging open. His ancestors had told him stories of glory and honor. They had never told him the truth. 6 humans. Just 6 wounded, angry humans. And they had almost won. The screen flickered and new footage began to play. This was not from helmet cameras. This was from official Galactic Concord archives, classified at the highest level. A date stamp appeared. 1 year after the Velos III massacre. Keth Voran's voice echoed through the grand chamber as the footage played. After Velos III, we expected Earth to surrender. They were a small species. They had limited ships. They had just lost their ambassadors and soldiers to a much larger power. Every strategic model predicted they would sue for peace. The footage showed Earth from space. The blue planet hung in the darkness, surrounded by a thin shell of satellites and stations. Instead, Kethvorin continued, they went silent. For 1 full year, humanity did not respond to any communication. No messages, no demands, no pleas for help. The Galactic Concord sent observers to watch the Sol system, but the humans had blocked all scanning. No one could see what was happening on their world. Some members of the Concord thought the humans had given up. Some thought they were preparing to negotiate. The Kreth Empire believed they had broken the human spirit. They were wrong. The footage shifted to show a Kreth border station 1 year and 3 days after Velos III. It was a massive structure, bristling with weapons, home to 5,000 warriors. It was considered unbreakable. Then the human fleet arrived. No one knew how they built it. No one knew how they kept it hidden. But there it was. 200 warships, designed and constructed in total secrecy. They were ugly ships, blocky and rough, clearly built for one purpose only: war. The Kreth border station sent out an alert and prepared for battle. They outnumbered the human ships. They had better weapons. They had centuries of space combat experience. The battle lasted 47 minutes. The humans did not fight like other species. They did not keep their distance and trade fire. They did not maneuver for advantage. They simply charged straight at the enemy and started killing. Human ships rammed Kreth vessels, tearing through their hulls before the crews could react. Human soldiers in armored suits jumped across the void of space, landing on enemy ships and cutting their way inside. Human pilots flew directly into enemy fire, sacrificing themselves to clear paths for their comrades. In the grand chamber, the delegates watched in horrified silence. This was not warfare. This was something else. Something raw and terrible and unstoppable. The Kreth border station was destroyed. Every ship that came to help it was destroyed. The human fleet took damage, but it kept moving, pushing deeper into Kreth space. The footage showed battle after battle over the following months. 47 Kreth warships fell to the human assault. Colony worlds were evacuated as human forces approached. The great Kreth Empire, which had dominated its region of space for thousands of years, was being pushed back by a species they had dismissed as weak. Then came the most disturbing part of all. The Kreth Emperor sent a message requesting a ceasefire. He offered generous terms. He offered to return the bodies of the fallen ambassadors. He offered money and technology and territory. The human response was simple. We do not want peace. We do not want your money. We do not want your territory. A pause. We want the commanders who ordered the massacre. Every single one of them. Delivered to us alive. The Kreth Emperor refused. He called it an insult to Kreth honor. The humans resumed their attack. 3 more ships fell. 2 more colonies were threatened. The Emperor tried to negotiate again. He offered other officers. He offered to punish the commanders himself. He offered everything he could think of. The humans repeated their demand. The same words, the same cold tone. The commanders who ordered the massacre, every single one of them, delivered to us alive. Finally, the Emperor surrendered them. 7 high-ranking Kreth officers, including the general who had killed the lead ambassador with his own blade. They were delivered to a human ship in chains. What happened next shocked the galaxy. The humans executed the 7 commanders in a public broadcast. It was quick and clean, not torture, not cruelty, just justice. 7 lives for the lives they had taken. And then the humans stopped fighting. They did not push further into Kreth space. They did not demand more blood. They did not burn worlds or take slaves or do any of the things that conquering species usually did. Instead, They sent medical ships to the Kreth colonies they had damaged. They helped rebuild the stations they had destroyed. They treated wounded Kreth soldiers and returned them to their people. The footage showed a human doctor treating a Kreth child on one of the damaged colonies. The child was terrified at first, but the doctor was gentle, patient, kind. "We could not understand it," Kethvorin said. "They had the power to destroy the entire Kreth Empire. They had the anger, they had the justification, but they chose to stop." The footage ended with a final image. A human soldier standing in the ruins of a Kreth military base. His armor was damaged, his face was tired, but his eyes were calm. He was not looking at the destruction around him. He was looking up at the stars, waiting to go home. In the grand chamber, Torvex sat completely still. He understood now why his family had never told him the full story. It was not just that the Kreth had been defeated. It was that they had been defeated by a species that could have wiped them out entirely, and simply chose not to. That was the most terrifying thing of all. The lights in the grand chamber slowly returned to normal. The holographic screen faded away, leaving only the memory of what it had shown. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence was so deep that it felt like a physical weight pressing down on everyone present. Torvex sat in his seat with his hands shaking. The scales on his face had lost all color. He kept seeing the images from the footage. The human soldiers covered in mud rising from the earth, the bodies arranged in patterns, the ships charging straight into enemy fire without hesitation. He had called them soft. He had called them weak. He had laughed. Kethvorin walked slowly back to the center of the platform. His 4 eyes moved across the chamber, looking at each delegate in turn. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "Now you understand," he said. "Now you see what humans are capable of when they are pushed, when they are wronged, when someone takes something from them." He paused to let the words sink in. "But there is one more thing you need to know. One final truth that has been hidden for 200 years. The delegates leaned forward. Even the Elder Council seemed to be listening more closely. "After the war ended," Kethvorin continued, "the Galactic Concord prepared to welcome humanity as full members. They had proven themselves. They had shown strength and restraint. They had earned their place among us." He stopped walking and stood perfectly still. But the humans refused. Confused murmurs spread through the chamber. Torvex looked up, his brow creased with disbelief. "They came to us in secret," Kethvorin said. "Their leaders, their generals, their scientists. They sat in a room with the Elder Council, and they made a request that no one expected." He looked directly at the assembly. "They asked us to ban them. They asked us to quarantine their solar system. They asked us to keep them away from the rest of the galaxy." The murmurs grew louder. This made no sense. A species that had just won a war against a major power, asking to be locked away? "Why?" someone shouted from the crowd. Kethvorin nodded slowly. "That is what the Elder Council asked. And the human leader at that time, a woman named Sarah Chen, gave them an answer they never forgot." He closed his eyes, remembering words that had been spoken 2 centuries ago. She said, "We scared ourselves. We looked at what we did on Velos 3 and in the war that followed, and we did not recognize ourselves. We are capable of terrible things when we are hurt. We become something else, something dark. And we are afraid that if we stay among you, we will be hurt again. Someone will wrong us again. And next time, we might not be able to stop." The chamber was silent once more. She asked for time. Kethvorin continued. Time to grow. Time to teach their children a better way. Time to build a society that could handle the galaxy without losing itself to anger and revenge. He opened his eyes. The ban was never a punishment. It was never a cage. It was a gift that humanity asked for, given by a Concord that respected their wisdom enough to grant it. Torvex felt something twist in his chest. He had spent his whole life believing that humans were inferior beings who had been locked away for their own protection. The truth was exactly the opposite. They had locked themselves away to protect everyone else. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. Everyone looked up. A communication alert was flashing on the main display. "We are receiving a transmission," one of the Elder Council members announced. "From Earth." The chamber went completely still. "Should we accept it?" another elder asked. Voran smiled for the first time. "I think they have been waiting long enough." The screen flickered to life. A human woman appeared on the display. She was middle-aged, with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that seemed to carry the weight of history. She wore simple clothing, nothing fancy or intimidating. She looked like someone you might meet on any street, in any city, on any world. "My name is Ambassador Diana Torres," she said. Her voice was calm and warm. "I represent the people of Earth. We have been watching your assembly today." She paused, and something flickered in her eyes. Pride, perhaps, or sadness, or both. "We heard the young delegate mock us. We heard the laughter. And we watched you see the truth." Torvex wanted to look away, but he could not. 200 years ago, our ancestors did something terrible," Ambassador Torres continued. "They were wronged, and they responded with a fury that almost consumed them. They won their war, but they lost something in the process. They lost the belief that they could be trusted with power." She took a breath. "So they asked for time, and you gave it to them. And for 200 years, we have worked to become something better. We have taught our children to seek peace first. We have built a society that values wisdom over strength. We have tried every single day to earn the right to rejoin the galaxy." She looked directly into the camera, and it felt like she was looking at each delegate personally. "We believe we are ready now. We are asking to end our exile and take our place among you, not as warriors, not as conquerors, but as partners, as friends." Her expression grew serious. "But we want you to understand something. We have not forgotten what we are capable of. The fire that burned on Velos the Thru still exists inside us. We have simply learned to control it, to use it only when there is no other choice." She paused. "We hope we never have to make that choice again. We hope the galaxy has grown just as we have. We hope that we can live together in peace." Another pause, longer this time. "But if someone hurts our people again, if someone laughs while killing our children, if someone thinks we are weak because we choose to be kind." Her eyes hardened just for a moment, just long enough. "We remember everything, and we always will." The transmission ended. The grand chamber remained frozen in silence. Then, slowly, Voran turned to face the Elder Council. "I call for a vote," he said. "All in favor of lifting the human exclusion mandate and welcoming humanity back into the Galactic Concord." One by one, hands and tentacles and appendages rose throughout the chamber. Species that had laughed earlier now voted in solemn agreement. Species that had dismissed humans as weak now recognized what they truly were. Even Torvex, his hand trembling, raised his arm in support. The vote was unanimous. And somewhere far away, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star, 8 billion humans looked up at the sky and prepared to rejoin a galaxy that finally understood what it meant to be human. They were not the strongest species. They were not the smartest or the longest lived. But they were something else. Something that could not be measured or calculated. They were relentless. They were loyal. They remembered. And they had learned, after all this time, that the greatest strength was knowing when not to use it.